Here we go once again, this time stripping our clothes off and putting a spear back on for a budget spear build of only 150G per item. Of course, we'll talk build and stats and show you guys what I bought, but also force some PvP in these exceptionally geared normal lobbies. Kicking this one off, we go with the Templar armor, agility, armor rating, get a crossbow, and then we actually have to rely on the vendor or the merchant for our spear under 150 gold, which is kind of frustrating. Crusader helm, plate pants, all trying to build some agi with cheap, rugged boots. I'm trying to get to 50% PDR, at least that's my goal, so we're going to need a Watchman's Cloak, and then Rings and Pendants will be kind of how we seal this one out and finish it off. It's going to be an interesting one. I've never really built 50% PDR, especially with Spear, because normally I like to have a lot of action speed, but we'll see how this feels. Unfortunately, we can't just rely on Sword Mastery to provide that extra oomph when we're doing some melee combat. We do manage to scrounge together a decent kit that gets us to 50% PDR, get a little bit of HP and armor rating from that Bear Pendant, and then the rest is just mostly agi and armor rating to the best that I can do. It's not going to have crazy damage, which you will see in a second. This spear is not really stacked with fizz power or true damage or additional damage, and I am running standard crossbow, so I'm a little nervous how well I'm going to be able to handle spacing people with crossbow and spear. I mean, I'm going to be slow with either of these weapons out. Not ideal, in my opinion. But we'll see how it goes. It's a very, very challenging one, but another interesting thing I'm doing here. I am using Taunt with Barricade, which is pushing me to 70% PDR when I'm blocking. Odd. It's very, very odd. I don't know when I'm going to be able to use this, but I want to see what sort of numbers we can get to. And obviously, it's right on 70%, which is interesting. It's a lot of PDR. Problem is, you fight a lot of magic classes, so PDR is almost useless, and we'll see how many people we can actually run into where this makes a difference. I don't really recommend using Spear Block too often, and I feel like it's going to be lackluster without counterattack, giving you that 10% movement speed if you do land a block. Trust me, this may work, but it'll take a lot of practice. I have not been using Spear at all this wipe. I really haven't been using Crossbow at all. We clear a little room out here just to give ourselves some space in case we need to play around doors, which is something you probably should do with crossbow a lot. And we find a willing combatant quite early. Like I said, usually I have a longbow in this situation, so I'm a little bit confused. I have not run this combination very much, and immediately we're getting pushed by fireballs, so sticking that crossbow bolt into his chest will be essential. We actually hit him twice, which is a very good start to this engagement. However, in Goblin Caves, if you don't have the resourcefulness or speed, you just get spammed door closing over and over and over again. It can be really difficult to keep the pressure on a lot of classes if you're just not able to get their open doors as fast as, say, Ranger or Rogue. Even breaking through them as Barbarian, it can really put people in bad positions just simply because you don't have to worry about doors. Even this Wizard, if he can break a lot of doors with Fireball, speed up his process quite quickly. See a lot of fireballs being casted. I'm just getting the impression he's trying to play range as much as possible. He might still be hurt a little. We end up sticking another crossbow bolt, which really sets us up well. He gets close, and I think now's the time. We just have to go for it. We get ignited, and we still can't kill him. So it's a crossbow bolt, probably get eaten by protection potion, and then 2 flaming spear hits. And we just can't take this guy down. We get unlucky on the stairs, and now the hunt is on. Like, we have to just completely pressure this guy till the end of time. There's no way we can let him get away. Unfortunate part is, we're not that fast either. 300 move speed isn't anything to write home about. It's just, like, average. And since we've already used sprint, he can just keep making up ground. He's taken his chest piece off now, which is super easy to do. I probably should be doing this, too. It seems really silly to strip all your clothing off to fight players in the dungeon. And now, this is the luckiest wizard I've ever seen. Of course, he gets a Hell Shrine the second I pressure a player into a bad position. Magical interaction speed's through the roof because he's a wizard, and he gets that Hell Shrine, and now we have to reset this whole engagement, which was going so well. Basically gonna come down to, can I hit a really crazy crossbow shot again? We'll just have to be patient. And that was the big thing with crossbow. You almost have to be so patient. It's a little frustrating at times. I'm not the most patient player. Like, the Lycan in me wants me to pressure this guy right now and get in there and start hitting him with stuff. But we do land a nice hit, and I go for it once more. Throwing axe slows him down just enough. Again, another spear hit. I'm thinking to myself, this could be our moment. We got him in a bad position. Maybe I go down there and dance with spear a little bit. We jump way too close, and I can't get away from him. Because there was a goblin. And this is a misplay on my part. Honestly, I misplayed around the whole ignite thing. I didn't see him ignite because he was underneath. I heard it, but for whatever reason, I was thinking in my head he was going to try to cast a fireball and like push me off the edge or something, or just try to keep me away. But he was igniting, and I should have read that and just waited. But I probably had enough move speed with sprint and spear to distance this guy's staff, but I couldn't back up. There was a goblin, which I also didn't see, who just pushed at the perfect time. I was like spamming, trying to get through. Like, why can't I move back? I can't get away from this guy. I'm literally stuck here. So I take a goblin hit and get bonked, and we die. And I really think, like, I overestimated how much damage I did to this guy as well. The shields and PDR and all those things combined. 85 damage spear isn't a lot. I mean, he's sitting at almost 30% PDR with ice shield and all this other stuff happening. So it's a tough one. I always misread when to pressure a wizard. And it's frustrating because in this game, I started looking around and realizing this is probably the worst way to play any melee class in the game right now. And that's spear on fighter, because everyone is stacking so much magic damage. Look at all these guys. They're like warlocks, clerics, wizards. If you're meleeing anybody, they have insane amounts of magical damage. Look at this. We know this guy. It's end boss. He actually pressures the wizard we're fighting. And yeah, this is a normals lobby. This is what you're doing with 1600 gold. And the crazy part is, we almost had a huge W against this wizard. He was in such a horrible spot. Such a horrible spot. So we're going to watch the actual melee classes duel it out and see what we can learn from this. Remember, he has Faithfulness, which is an on-hit slow. So he hits Holy Strike here. He gets a slow. And now it's just who can bonk better. And the cleric does it better. I mean, I watched this and I just like hurts me a little because I'm trying to think of ways I can play around this with like a really intense spear, and I go, okay, maybe I'll build a bunch of movement speed. I just get fireballed, ice spiked, zapped, holy striked into oblivion with insane magic damage. I can't really build a lot of MDR and be mobile. Okay? So if I try to incorporate some MDR in my plate, then I'm incredibly slow and I lose so many stats. I can't really get into melee fights against the classes I want to fight. So, it's a struggle, but we're not done. We're gonna go again. So we buy some more stuff. We see what we can get up to. This one I'll breeze through. It's a little different. We do take a Barbuda helm just for some decks, and honestly I was thinking maybe there might be a way to incorporate that to get some MDR and keep our dexterity up. Interestingly enough, we switched to Dark Cuirass and then Dashing Boots as well. Trying to get to 20 to 30% MDR, because remember, if we have our shield up or our block up on top of Taunt, which I didn't really use effectively last fight, this is a learning process. If we have those two things up, we should almost be at 50% magical damage reduction. Not quite, but there may be a possibility to do that. Trust me, I have no idea when I'm going to be able to use Spear Block effectively when you're moving at like 110 move speed while blocking, because I'm not running any other blocking perks. But I want to try it, and I thought this would be a really interesting way to not only educate you guys about some stuff that no one really uses, but also test myself a little to see what we can get up to with Spear. That's a little unique. So, game 2. We find our favorite room. It gets really busy really quickly. We have this guy who we saw across the room. We're like, what's going on with him? We leave him alone, but this fighter is way more ruthless. Way more ruthless. He does not leave this guy alone. That poor man just gets smashed to pieces without even really getting a chance to play in that game. We need to clear all this junk. Goblin Mage is an absolute curse. It will turn on you at the last moment when you think you have a fight going your direction or in your favor and just completely ruin an entire engagement. And the second we find a door to kind of play around, another guy shoots us, so this is pretty lively. It's good. This is what we like to see. I just hope I'm not caught in the middle of it all. Fighter, we're going to need to hit him with a lot of crossbow bolts. We need to keep some pressure on this guy. I think he'll be our prime target. It's kind of the thing I want to be fighting with Spear. He looks slow. I can get it around that shield maybe with some pokes. I can punish him a bit with my crossbow. And if I do get into some melee engagement situations, I should have enough PDR with Taunt and Spear's reach to kind of allow myself to make some mistakes. I shouldn't be too threatened unless I really, really make some poor decisions and get way too close to this guy. And he just looks so slow. I mean, I think he's wearing plate boots or something as well. Yeah, like it's crazy how slow this guy is. I do not recommend that build on Fighter, because he'd get cooked by any one of the magic classes we run into consistently. But this is fun for me, because I can literally just poke him around shield and mess around with this. It's perfect spear practice. I love it. Not something I get to do very often. There goes the second wind. We're feeling pretty confident. Very confident even. Thinking, damn, this guy's beating a lot of hits. He must have decent PDR. And then we go a little Lycan, a little rogue. Jump in there a little more than probably we should have. But it really doesn't matter at the end. He's not hurting us too badly. So we dice him up quite nicely. One thing I will say, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious by checking this guy's boots that he may be new to building a PDR kit. Nice kit, like he had some good pieces, including a legendary Fox pendant, which was interesting. But one key thing here is he doesn't have any move speed on his boots, which is like pretty much de facto. You have to do that or else you're going to struggle on almost any class. You need to be taking move speed on your boots. This guy, as you could tell, was suffering from move speed big time. Not very often I see a full plate fighter anymore. You know, there's always a few light pieces mixed in. The rest of this game, we try to fight a Lycan fighter for almost 90% of this game. We kept hitting him with crossbow bolts, chasing him around the map. Neither of us could ever get in a position where we had to engage. Try as I would, I just couldn't get through doors fast enough. Every door I opened, he would run around to a different one and close it on me, jump up lifts, whatever it was. We did, in the end, get to pressure him a little bit, but he had a portal open, of course. I really wanted to try fighting this guy. I think he had a longsword. Would have been a fun fight with Spear. I could have maybe tested out my block with Taunt and all those things. But luckily, we get to take out our frustrations on this Druid player. It's kind of a bit scrambly, trying to make his way through this dungeon. I have become way less fearful of Druids. I just don't think they have crazy amount of potential anymore to do damage or even like bear form you. It's pretty... I mean, you just don't see a lot of them. They basically just rat away if they ever get in trouble. And truthfully, I have not run into one that's been very geared at all. The meta chasing guys are all on different classes now. They're no longer playing Druid. Unfortunately for people that absolutely love Druid, it's not in a great spot solo. I'm not really sure what this guy's supposed to do here with Spear against 50-some% or even 60% PDR. Incredible block, but we basically just gear check, stat check, whatever this guy. But that is the intense PvP we're looking for. Yes, building a kit and gear checking someone for under 1,600 gold. Amazing. Amazing. Anyway, he had literally junk on, but I'm desperate broke after, you know, losing a few kits. We need any little scrap we can get, so we actually loot a lot of good valuables off this guy. Yeah, nothing crazy. Certainly nothing to write home about. One pendant that might sell in a blue spell book, which I don't even know if I can fit in here, so we take all his shinies instead. Jumping through the portal, away we go. We did make our money back basically on that fighter, probably over the course of both these builds. We probably made some money back on that guy, but nothing too crazy. One thing I will say, I'm actually very intrigued with trying out this whole block thing a little more. Only reason why is because I may try it even with like, try to get as close to 50-50 as we can. 50% PDR, 50% MDR might not be bad. There may also be opportunities to make this work maybe a little better with Buckler. The thing is, I'm kind of beholden to the spear, and two-handed weapon gameplay is just more high risk, high reward in my opinion. I don't like the fact that shields just count as a stat stick. No one's really using them for blocking unless maybe you're in trios. Only shields I see being used are on Rondel, Buckler fighters, and it's just a PDR stat stick, additional weapon damage stat stick, to buff up the Rondel dagger so they can chase you around at 310 move speed with plate on. It seems so unfun, in my opinion, to just W key into people and and shank them with a dagger, but that seems to be 90% of what Solos is. If it's not a bonk wizard, a cleric with smite faithfulness, it's a fighter with rondel, buckler, or it's a barbarian with felling axe. Whatever it is, it's just get as close as possible where blocking becomes super ineffective. Sour spots on all these two-handed weapons become active, so you're doing way less damage, and then also you're just getting shanked to death, high DPS, true damage stacked. It's essential. So I'm not recommending any of these builds if you want to be a winner guy that wins every single engagement, but they are fun, and I think with, you know, slight changes to some things, you may see some good gameplay with Spear. Maybe going forward we get a two-handed perk, maybe something similar to Sword Mastery. That's all I'm saying. And I hope that day does arrive, because I love some Halberd, Crystal Sword, Spear, whatever it is. I love the gameplay with it. It feels so rewarding when you make it work, and very, very challenging in its own way. So, that is all for today. I'll see you guys next time. I may experiment with this a little more. Not quite sure yet. It wasn't super bad. It just felt like we were not very well practiced, and there's a lot more we need to learn with the whole blocking, 70% PDR. Who knows if it has a place? Just interesting thought. So I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thank you all very much.